Mental variance is a celebrated theme in the world of NIKKE. It encompasses a huge portion of the cast, and while the majority of those NIKKEs have cute or harmless quirks, some girls are a little more on the unstable side, let's say. So let's go over the worst of them, the irredeemables. You may not agree with all the NIKKEs I've chosen in this video, but at least allow me to convince you. Isabel is a crazy pilgrim with a beyond comprehensible obsession with the commander. She is infatuated with him to the extreme and believes they share a romantic bond despite having little to no reciprocation. She kidnaps him, she imprisons him, and even drugs him to maintain control. She even resorts to violence, threatening to hurt or even kill anyone who interferes with her relationship. This includes the Counters, who she literally fights against in her Bond story. She claims this stems from a traumatic childhood of a broken family, but that doesn't excuse this insanity. What, your father went to grab some milk from the store, so it's okay to hurt my little cinnamon rolls? Isabel suffers from a distortion of reality. She fabricates a shared romantic history with us, claiming that we, the commander, confessed feelings to her. We of course confront her about this, but she insists that her delusions are real. Verdict. Even when temporarily cooperative, Isabel reverts to stalking and manipulation. This makes redemption impossible. I don't care how good this skin is, god damn. If your friends are in danger just by them engaging with you, that is incompatible in our harem. She is irredeemable. She is a dangerous yandere, the worst type. Difficulty, impossible. Our next wonderful patient is the beloved red dragon Nihilister. Or Nihilister. But let's get this out of the way first. She is a heretic, an enemy of the Ark. Don't let the massive Dragon Balls fool you. This red, motherly dragon revels in annihilation, burning whatever she wants and taunts victims in battle, hoping to find pleasure from their suffering. Her name derives from nihilism, which mirrors her ways. She rejects alliances and has no loyalty to the queen or anyone else really. And most importantly, she prioritizes chaos over purpose. Nihilister has a fragile ego, and being defeated only made it worse, triggering further madness and a vehement refusal to be humiliated. Yeah, she had some brief moments of vulnerability, but they were all manipulative ploys, like begging for mercy when in reality she just wanted to hurt you. But speaking of you, you are the saving grace for her. The commander is interesting enough for her. He's kind to a fault, something she has never known before. We also know that he's basically Riz Jesus, and that's probably due to his blood. They also align goals with taking down the queen, and he has been way more successful than she has been. And lastly, she wants his black box, and she likes him now enough to not want to gut him for it at least. But sadly, that's all the info we've got. She has been left to the dust, rotting out there in the surface somewhere. And not only that, she is one of the worst performing units in the game despite being a heretic, and there has been no story updates on her condition since chapter 25, which is now about 10 chapters ago. Here's the verdict. We must have faith that she will make a great comeback. After all, she went from being a machine of destruction to exchanging information with us. It's a huge step in the right direction. After being crippled by Indivilia and Chatterbox, she mentioned that she seeks companionship, which honestly could mean anything, but we'll have to take it in a positive perspective. Remember, more than anything, she wants to be a supreme being herself, more than the queen. In fact, to trample the queen. But yes, it is hard to get a heretic on our side, like Modernia. And unlike Modernia, Nihilister has no strong connection to us to anchor herself back to our side. Difficulty, very hard. Dorothy easily has the heaviest in lore out of anybody here, so buckle up. She is the main adversary of yet another faction. Some dislike her because of her elitist attitude and willingness to hurt your comrades, but real ones enjoy her company because we understand. We've seen the horrific pain she went through. It doesn't justify all her actions, no, but it makes sense why she does what she does. Dorothy has suffered some of the most brutal traumatic experiences in the game, arguably the top one. Once the unstoppable and mighty Goddess Squad lost the core of their strength, Dorothy was forced to take a leadership position, leading a mind-switched Snow White, Rapunzel, and a drunken Swordmaster. No longer did they have the insurance of Lilith to fall back on or the uplifting spirit of Red Hood. The Goddess Squad became a shell of what they once were, and at the helm was none other than Dorothy. Even so, Dorothy and her mates were strong. They've been fighting on the front lines for a very long time and saw periods of success, but nothing substantial to move the goalpost. there was little hope, and humanity seemed to have given up before them. During the operation of sealing the Ark, Dorothy made a friend that she could connect to. It was the innocence and brightness that she couldn't get from the other goddesses. She was a beacon of hope, something that was once a lost concept to Dorothy. Anyway, without getting into too much detail, we all know what happened to Peanut. Dorothy couldn't save her friend, couldn't save that last flicker of hope from burning out. And in the middle of all this shit, we learned that the Ark betrayed the goddesses, left them behind. Despite them fighting constantly and suffering tremendous losses, the Ark no longer had use for them. They were to die as a symbol of hope. They were never meant to go as far as they did. Lilith and Red Hood's death made the goddesses irrelevant, not to mention the absence of the legendary commander. You can imagine that after all this misery, Dorothy couldn't take it anymore. She gets talked out of ending herself, but in turn her brain gets fried, turning her essentially into a schizophrenic. This causes the goddesses to distance themselves from her until the day she gets confronted about her delusions. Dorothy finally snaps out of it, but quickly replaces it with sorrow and a wicked vengeance. This consumes her from that point on. Taking into consideration that she is an older model, this means that she gets limited memory storage. And while there is a chance that she forgot all the trauma, I think it's quite the opposite, that that's all she's kept all this time. We also gotta talk about Red Hood's return from the dead many years later, giving Dorothy another flicker of hope. But having a dear friend return just to say, "You've changed," and "Go f*** yourself," while proceeding to die once again has got to be rough. But what about Dorothy's love? The lingering love she has for humanity. After all of these years, she confesses that she wishes desperately to love and to be loved again. After all this time, after all the things that she's been through, after all the things the Ark put her through, she still has hope. She still has hope that she can come back to us. Well, it certainly doesn't help that shortly after that confession, Red Hood blows a hole in Dorothy's stomach. Then we just tell her to get her shit together and come with us all the way back to the Ark. I wouldn't feel like loving again after that. So here I raise a question. Are her actions justified? I think getting revenge against the Ark is justified, and she seems to understand that the citizens and government employees of today's Ark were not directly responsible for those things all those years ago. And I think she knows about the Ark's dark secrets, so she might be going for that instead. Verdict: Dorothy seeks answers and revenge. And I think once she gets both, we can start working on her. But will we help her with that? Or will we turn against her? Who knows? One answer that might not actually mean anything is how she addresses us as Your Grace. Not once does she use this in the story or her Bond story. This is a title given to those that she admires or respects, I assume. And we certainly don't have that right now. Is this a Dorothy from the future? Are the devs alluding to hope? Or is it just a possibility? Another reality? Here's my hope. How about y'all re-release this gacha skin at a discount, eh? Difficulty: very hard, and I'm not talking about myself. If you ask 10 Nikke players who their least favorite character is, 9 of them would say it's Crow. There is no other Nikke more hated than her. Yes, even Red Shoes, who would gladly take second place. However, we must be fair and equal to the best of our abilities. For instance, she's rightfully classified as a terrorist. Many civilians lost their lives because of her and Uni. Okay, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. Is there any hope for this sack of shit? Well, not being dead is a good start. Rappy stopped us from sending her to permanent timeout, so at least we have something to work with. Currently, she's in rehab having her brain examined for how it resisted the nymph. I can't imagine being treated like that would make her motivated to be a better person. But hey, and Commander wants nothing to do with Crow, which means our high success rate in Nikke rehabilitation is out of the equation. Even Crow's closest friends abandoned her, or rather, she abandoned them by taking things way too far. So there's no chance of them coming to help her. Why is she so hopeless? It stems from a hatred of the blissful Ark. Humans won't change, so why should she? Nikkes have been treated naturally as the disposable guardian of humanity. Humans of the Ark have lived upon the corpses of Nikkes for far too long, so she decided to bring the warfront to the humans so that they would remember what life is like without their guardians. We are, as usual, a special case to her. She knows we are different, but because of that, she believes that even we can fall. We can be taken as an example, that our fall from grace would prove that no matter how gifted or kind one is, when push comes to shove, they will join the darkness. So she kills Uni and the counters right in front of us, sending us into a blinding rage. Y'all remember when that happened?
仲間はみんな死んだからね。撃つのか。じゃあ破滅するんだ。
Yeah, that's why everyone hates her. Verdict. I see no silver lining, but it's obvious the devs are going to pull something out of their ass for her. They're going to make her a part of the story again. What she has done is unforgivable. The commander has never been more angry, more emotionally wrecked than his final confrontation with Crow. Having Crow go through a cheesy redemption arc would feel so cheap, like none of the craziness from those chapters mattered. But hey, I'm not the god-tier writing team. They are. As for now, artists like this guy are the only ones keeping the dream alive, so yeah, keep dreaming, Crow fans. Difficulty, impossible. Rapunzel is the odd one out on this list. She has technically done no wrong, unlike the others. It's just that she's in too deep. It's her split between piety and perversion as a core trait that's overwhelming, especially during serious moments. She doesn't see it as a flaw, and despite having low memory storage like Dorothy, it still remains. And that just confirms that it's who she is. Why did it become a core part of her trait? Well, we can attribute it to trauma bonding. It's her loyalty to the Goddess Squad, especially the guilt over Red Hood's fate. She couldn't find a cure for Red Hood's corruption, despite promising that she could, and I think that failure still haunts her to this day. We know that Red Hood was the one that corrupted her, so that strong and pleasurable sensation is carried like a legacy. I'm sure Red Hood is proud. Verdict, irreparable. You can't even get through one sentence without her getting triggered. She's the only one to make the connection of Commander's abnormal stamina and how good of a thrusting session he would give. It's no doubt that she's a good person, and that she doesn't actually need correcting, and that her dedication to her duty is genuine, but she's also very much dedicated to her libido. This was once the #1 candidate for the next pope, for Christ's sake. How were you so easily tainted? Perhaps once Commander grants her dreams, she'll become more tame, returning to her innocent path. Nah, it'll be the opposite. What a terrible idea. Difficulty, impossible. Sin. I would bet half of you guys forgot this was even a character until the recent Valentines. Okay, enough trash talking. Sin specializes in mind control and manipulation. She typically brainwashes people into mindless puppets and particularly enjoys guilt tripping and using a point system to make her ways around. There have been times when she made Commando do humiliating things like cleaning her shoes, piggyback rides around the cells, and then being laughed at and thrown into the garbage. When we confront her, we realize that she sees no distinction between a soldier dying for their country and committing a sin as an offer of love to another. It's a weird, twisted distortion of her reality. She also holds a criminal record that looks really bad. 81 cases, including murder, arson, and fraud. Yeah, she had no direct involvement, but she aided and encouraged these people to do it. Romantic Valentine, the recent event, showed us a completely different Sin, and it demonstrated that she's mellowed out quite a bit since the last time we've seen her. There wasn't a single case of manipulation. Commander even scored nothing but positive points throughout the entirety of the event, and was surprised by her willingness to work hard and cooperate with her fellow NIKKEs. Verdict. Despite the improvements, the mask stays on. What happens when she gains access to that power again? Will she resist the urge or go down the same path? It's great that she's doing better as of the update, but where's the character development? It's not very convincing to go from a felon of multiple accounts to a cutesy maid who loves to help and make friends. What happened in between that time? They just expecting us to forgive her because she's hot? Well, yes. Difficulty. Like I said, not convinced. Very hard. Red shoes. Status. Dead, hopefully. Difficulty. Impossible. So out of all these, who's your favorite and why is it Dorothy? Correct answers only. What a great game. I'll see you on the next one.